All right, guys, give us a few seconds. We're just waiting to get another mod in here so we can start the talk, but thanks for joining.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for another episode of Xbox Talks. I can't believe that we've done 15 of these now. I see some familiar faces, and thanks again for those of you who can continue to find us every week and come in here and talk about the latest Xbox news. This week was a little slower for news, but and void of that, I guess we have the premiere of the Halo series, and I just want to kind of give a warning to those of you that have not watched it and maybe want to avoid spoilers. We're gonna devote probably about 20 to 30 minutes to discussing just that, and we really want to hear your opinions on it if you've seen it. There's going to be spoilers, obviously, so if you're listening to this in the podcast or on YouTube and you don't want to see those, just skip ahead 30 minutes. I'm kind of watch the time, and I'll make sure that we don't stray over that, so you don't jump in on some big event or something that you don't want to hear about. So if you guys have had a chance to hear it, go ahead and raise your hand, come on up and discuss it with us. We'll give you kind of our takes on it too, and I can't really wait to get into that. So if you're not familiar with this client, this is Reddit Talk. It's kind of newly rolled out feature of Reddit where we have voice communications instead of just your normal Reddit post and that kind of situation where it's more static. So we enjoy this because we get to hear your voices, and it's nice to put some voices with the usernames that we see so often, making comments and participating in the community. So I'm joined today by Kevin and Ivan.
Howdy, howdy.
Ivan.
How's it going?
Good. My name is Jay, Jay Foreman. I'm also happy to help host the show. So I just wanted to kind of open up and ask you, what have you guys been playing or what have you been up to this week?
Busy week. We'll get to it later, but I was at the Halo red carpet premiere, which was really fun to go do and kind of hang out, see the cast and all the cool fun stuff like that. But for playing, I've been playing a lot of Tunic actually. Whenever I get some time in, really fun game. Kind of sad people are trying to review bomb it right now, but it's a great game. I love it. It's such a nice like an indie title, and it's day one on Game Pass, so can't beat that.
Yeah, I've really been enjoying it too. And I saw kind of a Twitter take on the review bombs, and I guess the kind of basic feel for it was that the same people that will review bomb a game are also the same people that complain about gaming journalists maybe not being sincere in the reviews and stuff like that, or not being worth a darn, you know. So it's kind of funny to see them. It's kind of contrasting actions from the same people, and I kind of agree with that. So if you want to piss and moan about gaming journalism, and then go participate in something like that where it's a user voice and completely make that inauthentic, it really chips away at your initial criticism. So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's hypocritism. Criticism. Ugh, I can't talk. I just woke up. Sorry, guys.
We'll
Um,
go easy on you. I know that you had a late night with work and all that.
yeah,
So
it's total hypocrisy at its finest. Like you can't sit there and cry about, oh, this game journalist sucks, Jason Schreider, whatever. I hate you, and then you're like review bomb, review bomb, review bomb. It's like, come on, like I don't know. For me, I think Mikey kind of went onto it like 2 weeks ago, where it's like gaming's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be something that's inclusive. It's supposed to be something that's meant for everybody. It brings people together. Like, why are we gonna sit there and act like I mean, maybe they are 5-year-olds. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I grew up in a time where like I had to dial in for internet, and my internet was Encyclopedia Britannica. That's how old I am. Which isn't really that old, but still like I don't know, it's so weird to see people just hate for no reason. It makes no sense to me.
It's kind of funny though. Like, even though you were like, you kind of like made up a word that I think does actually describe it though, where it's like hypocritism, where it's like it's both hypocritical and they're also trying to create criticism. So it ended up working out. Like I think that's what we could just call it. But it's weird because you mentioned like how like being around on the internet forever. I feel like I started seeing those types of legs on PC games. Like everything was just getting review bombed on Steam for something. And I remember games for Windows Live being almost just an instant giveaway before the game even came out. It's like, oh, it has a games for Windows Live thing, boom, review bomb. So it's kind of weird to see it now in the console space, I guess, because people just have more access and it's just easier to do that. Whereas before, the whole reviewing thing was like a little more abstract. Like people didn't automatically jump to Metacritic for these things. They kind of were like, they bought it, they played it, or maybe they just went on Game Pass. And if anything, the reviews might have been like on the store. But sometimes even getting to those were very hard to do, depending on what platform you're on.
It's
Yeah.
nope, it's gotten to the point now where I don't use review averages, but I will read individual reviews because you can get more information from one person than some kind of like mishmash of all the like you have people giving 1-star reviews because the game they couldn't get to run or all these different issues that might not actually be related to the gameplay.
Yeah, and yeah, I know that. Yeah, like back in the day, like your review system was your friend. Did you get that game? No. Did you know somebody else that got that game? No. Like it's like, should I buy it? It was all trial and error, but I do want to jump into the Halo talks. We did tell them that we had a 30-minute time crunch, but
Yes, thank
would you?
you. Before we get too distracted, so yeah, let's do
Yeah.
that. You were fortunate enough to attend the premiere, which is like super fancy to me. You got to see the red carpet in the first 2 episodes, but we will limit the conversation to the first episode today. So let's just start with your take.
Yeah, I liked it. You and I kind of talked a little bit about it. I think it kind of had like a little bit of a weird kind of weak start. But then once you start getting into, the Covenant, the elites coming in, and then the Spartans, he does the iconic, superhero landing kind of thing. And just starts wrecking face, it's just kind of like, oh, okay, like that's where, and then they did a lot of fan service too. I was surprised during that battle. His shields go down and you get the actual game noise. They kind of did little, which I've always kind of felt jarring was the first person perspective, trying to make it. I think Doom tried that a while back. The movie with Rock, the one that nobody wants to remember. Yeah, it's just, yeah, they tried to do that, and I always find it jarring, but they didn't really like make it something that was so predominant it took over the scene. So that was kind of cool. Um, and then yeah, I think you even said, yeah, like they kind of, Master Chief has his own child now, similar to the Mandalorian. So and then the big helmet reveal, which I liked. I thought it worked. I know a lot of people are going to hate on that, and but I like what they did to kind of humanize him, to sympathize with the rebel, the with her, to show him like, hey, I'm human too, this isn't, I'm just programmed weird, but it's cool. I really liked what they did with it. Like you said, like I think you even said too, kind of started off weak, but then won me over towards the end. And then seeing the second episode, I just kind of further solidified my stance on like, hey, this is something I really do want to keep, investing my time in. But yeah, it was great. What did you think?
Myself, I kind of went into this with a couple of thought points. Maybe is one that I'm not gonna be disappointed if it strays from the canon that we have from the video games. I'm gonna accept this as just kind of a standalone show based on the Halo universe, and if they take it a little sideways, I'm gonna try to be okay with that and not let that detract from my overall opinion of the show. So my first half an hour with the show was rocky. It's just it felt like a lot of tropes. It's kind of the phrase I keep using, where they had to set up the story, but there's a scene where our human protagonist, her father is killed right in front of her, that I've seen in like 82,000 other movies before, to kind of set up her anguish, and it just felt really generic to me. But as we got into the second half of the episode and we started to get more into the Halo universe, I think maybe that first part didn't really, it showed us the elites and some cool combat and stuff, but we didn't start getting into their version of the Halo lore. Well, what they did in the second half of the episode is they kind of hooked me in. They're telling a story that I want to see through. I want to see where they take it and what they come up with, and hopefully, it's something that fans can enjoy. But they have a really tall task here in trying to please this fan base and even building a following for the show. So it's going to be really interesting to see where it goes from here. They made it interesting enough for me to want to turn it into episode 2, so I would consider that as a big win for them. If anybody in the audience, like I said, I see some hands coming up and then going back down. I know it might be a little intimidating to come up here and share your opinions, but we sure would love to hear how you felt about the show as well. So we will gift even a month of Reddit Premium to participants. So kind of a side note, but we haven't heard from Ivan here. Ivan, what did you think about the first episode?
I actually really liked it. I definitely felt like Mandalorian vibes with it. And it's funny that both of you kind of had a problem with the start, because I actually thought the start was pretty interesting, because I remember like Mikey and a few other people saying that they're straying from the path. And even what you're saying is like you see it as a standalone. So if it does it, it is what it is. So I thought that was happening right off the start, but then I felt like as the episode progressed, it was more like you were getting the universe told to you from their perspective, like as rebels. Like even one of the rebels was like, "Oh, I thought it was just propaganda when the elites showed up." Like that, they just had like no idea that what was going on, in the universe. And I thought that was pretty cool. And then that led into, the UNSC be also sort of being a little like sideways with things. Like, I liked a lot of I guess the underlying things happening, like all the things at the base that are there. Um, because like what story is true? I guess that's going to be left to the reader or the watcher in this case. Um, I thought that was just fun, and I would say if I had one like drawback was just really the helmet thing. I mean, it did make sense in the context of the episode and all that, but like it's weird that he just left it off. I would think that he would put it back on, especially when he got into the chair to fly away or something. Like I just he just left it off. Like,
No, that's pretty fair. I think there were a couple bumps in production, literal ones, even in some cases. I did notice that when one of their little Star Trek doors, the ones that slide back and forth, was moving in one of the scenes. Like it didn't go smoothly. Like it rocked. It hit a little bump, and I'm sure there's going to be a ton of nitpicks like that for people. Some people are. We've talked about the size of the elites. Obviously, they're a lot thicker and chunkier than the video game version of them, but I think that does kind of help translate the amount of power they're supposed to possess. They're formidable enemies, so I think maybe they took a little liberty with the character design there. But I think it kind of works, and if that's going to be a deal breaker for you, this was probably never going to be the show for you, or you're never going to appreciate what they're trying to do here, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And that's fine. If you're like, man, this is just too far away from what I know, like that makes sense to me.
Yeah, and I like that they're like beefier. I mean, that they got some chonk to them, like it makes them menacing. It makes them, especially when, it kind of shows that contrast that, Spartans are really truly something special. They are a killing machine, because then, you have these guys, which also I think we talked about in our Slack channel for the Xbox One subreddit. It makes no sense that they didn't kind of explain like why are their bullets doing more damage, but I mean, I don't think it really have to. I think you just kind of have to suspend your belief to a certain extent. But I mean, if you want to get technical, I'm pretty sure you can find a lot of technical issues with this, but I think overall it was good, like having them chunkier, having them bigger. Um, really made them menacing that they're just, and then you have, yeah, they're just coming in and just, like I said, just tearing up everything. It added a lot to, I think, the Spartan. And then him leaving his helmet off, I like that. You have to look at it that you're seeing this from a third person perspective now, and you're not looking at it as a first person. So with him having his helmet off, it just, you're not going to get that emotion from him, of him kind of freaking out, like, okay, because that's what he kind of, I mean, he wasn't really showing it that much, but that's what he was doing. He was like, okay, 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 like, what am I doing? He's having that internal conflict within himself that's that's shown on screen, and you can't do that with a helmet on. You can't add to that drama, that tension, that, oh my god, are they going to take, are they going to get it, because him kind of almost panicking and, kind of really rushing and trying to do all that. It's, you can't get that with the helmet on. So I
No,
kind of like that.
yeah, it makes sense for a TV show to go that way. Like you said, you're acting and conveying emotion, and it's pretty hard to do it when you have the Master Chief's deadpan delivery all the time. Like I see how they were trying to humanize him, and I'm sure that's going to be an important part of the story going forward. I think one thing that kind of took me by surprise was just how violent the show was, and I knew it was Halo, and I knew we were going to be blowing things up and killing people and stuff. But the first few minutes of it, like, we're vaporizing children and like legs are being blown off, and it's just I kind of screened it before we have a younger child in the house, and I wanted to make sure that it might be something they'd be okay with, and I decided they're not quite ready there yet, because just like there were like kids like with their legs blown off in the field and stuff like that, and I was just like, man, they really went for it.
Yeah, like all of a sudden, yeah, they're going out to the forest to trip balls, and then all of a sudden one head goes flying off. And it's
I
like
forgot.
that
Yeah,
wouldn't
they were also
happen.
out there doing drugs, which I'm just like, we went for. They're like, just they wanted to let you know what you're gonna get right up front, I guess.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, like, yeah, they went out there to trip balls, and then all of a sudden their head gets blown off. I remember, I think even in the theater, some people were like, "Whoa, did that just happen?" Like that, like everybody was like, "Oh," and then all of a sudden, just, yeah, people started dying, and then it was just, I mean, it's not downhill, but downhill for them, I guess, but uphill for the show, because then that's like when all the action came in, and then yeah, it was pretty interesting, actually. I didn't really think about it until you mentioned it, but yeah, I like that though. I
It's
want
just
them to
like
take it to that next level.
it's just like, man, that 13-year-old kid is now a pink mist, and we're like 2 minutes into the show. Okay, I got it. This is gonna be some carnage, so it really sets the stage for maybe what we can expect as the season goes on.
You know what I kind of, I guess, appreciate with the show is that I also had that take where, like, the first couple minutes, it's like, whoa, this show is really just dialing in the violence. But, like, it's something that I also kind of forgot about. You know what I mean? Because it was like, it wasn't such a in your face focus. Like, sometimes when a show or a movie decides we're going to be really gory, they just keep it dialed to 11 the whole time. But, like, they did it in a bit more of a tasteful way where it's like, well, yeah, they're getting attacked. So this is where, you would get that. But then for the rest of the show, you don't really get those types of scenes. And I kind of like that, because I completely forgot that that was even the take I had where I'm like, wow, I was not expecting that. It's like I remember it now, but I just kind of just remember more of the story points.
Yeah, and then like where he just totally goes in like the elite and just murders all those kids in the room. I was like, oh man, like I thought it was gonna be like he opens up the door and then here comes Master Chief with a drop kick to the face or something, but nope. He
Yeah,
just
full on
unloaded the
Anakin.
clip.
He was mowing him down.
Yeah. He just
Welcome.
unloaded the clip until it went click,
He,
and then it was insane.
yeah,
That was
pretty gory.
crazy.
Yeah, go ahead. Well, first of all, welcome to the stage, Genjutsu. We're happy to have you up here. So, give us your impressions. What did you think about the show? Jen, I heard you. Are you there? And
While we get Genjutsu up, maybe
yeah,
he's figuring out the mic issues. I know Reddit talk. This is something though, so we're looking at making it a weekly thing. So if you guys want us to do weekly show discussions separate from Xbox talks, we can definitely do that. That's something I don't mind hosting every Thursday or Friday. If you guys want to jump in and let us know. Let us know if you guys want to do that. We can even do a poll up after the show. If you guys want a dedicated show just to the Halo TV show, I would love to do that with you guys. So please let us know in the comments, or once we make a poll, let us know if that's something you guys be interested in.
I do feel like this is going to be kind of a weekly conversation. We're also at a point in the year where it's really slow for big video game news. It won't start picking up again until we start to get towards E3 and things start leaking, and we get maybe some more announcements and stuff type then. So this is maybe a good time to have this series in rotation for communities like this. So Jinjitsu, I heard you talk when you first came up here. You can click the microphone on the bottom of your client and it will unmute you. Hopefully we can help you figure that out, and if not, maybe we'll catch you at a later date.
Yeah, I do want to, in one of the chat or in the comments, Jester RX27, which we've talked about this. Don't insult the Mandalorian like that. The absolute horrible special effects really hurt what probably will otherwise be a fun show. Looks low budget, and that's something I think I can definitely agree with him on that. I don't know if they did this, yeah, I don't know. It was weird. Like I was watching it and I kind of expected a little bit higher budget, but yeah, some of the CGI was definitely a little off. It definitely looks, I'm hoping this is just to get their feet wet and then like a kind of like a not proof of concept, but something to where when season two comes in, they're really going to invest a bigger budget. They're really going to nail down that CGI. Um, I think some of the CGI looks really good, but that's towards the second season stuff or the second episode stuff, which I don't want to get into. But I don't know. I think the CGI is definitely something that I hope they improve going on through the show.
Yeah, and when I mentioned the Mandalorian, I wasn't saying like scene for scene or whatever. I was just saying like as far as the story plot, where you have like sort of a hunter type character picking up like I guess an objective, a mission, which is a living person, and then ending up like being a sort of caregiver. That's what I meant by the Mandalorian vibes. But yeah, as far as the CGI, it's so weird because it's like you think like, oh, that's pretty good for a show, and then there was one moment like right after the elites that looked pretty decent. Like Master Chief is like, all right, I don't need this rifle. I'm gonna grab the turret. He kicks the assault rifle, and it looks like pre-production. Like they had to overdo it again. Like like this is just for the editor to see. Hopefully they fix it, and they didn't. And I'm like, why did that gun turn into like a original Xbox assault rifle? It was so weird.
They kick over like a Nerf gun.
Yeah, it was definitely something they needed to touch up. But then it goes into a really nice like Gatling gun sort of deal. And I'm like, it's so weird. Like 5 seconds ago, we had totally different effects.
Definitely a few production maybe overlooks like that. Like I said, the door wobbling scene. I can't believe somebody didn't see that and be like, oh, let's recut that real quick. But hopefully, as it goes on, maybe they'll get a little better with it. I did want to welcome up Shunkelberger. Hopefully, we can have better luck with you than our last guest. Hey, I see your mic's off, so hopefully we can get your
Hey,
take. Yeah, give it to us. What did you think about
Yay.
the show?
I thought it was good. I'd heard some really mixed reviews, and I was pretty happy with the end result. I liked the violence, and I agree with what you guys were saying that it was nice that it wasn't, dialed to 11 the whole time, that it was appropriate to the situation. And it kind of reminded me of the books because I've read a couple of the Halo books of that, that kind of that first contact type setting and how just how scared and unaware the rebels or the townsfolk, whatever you want to call them, were. They thought it was the Marines, but it was the Covenant coming in instead. So I really enjoyed that. The bullets were weird, and I really did. When they're shooting at the elites, it just felt so off. And then the Master Chief and the Spartans come in and start shooting, and yet somehow their bullets are getting through. Like I would have liked to have seen the townsfolk take like maybe at least one elite down with the amount of rifles they had and stuff. I
Agreed.
don't know. Yeah,
Yeah, I
because it
agree
just
with
felt
that.
like, oh, they're like invincible, and it wasn't. Again, it was, yeah, that special effects of like you didn't even see the bullets like pinging off anything. They just kind of disappeared. It felt a little weird, like they were just disappearing. But then Spartans come in and, oh, now our bullets work. But again, they don't. They lacked kind of an oomph, for guns that I thought was a little weird.
Yeah, I think so too. It was like I said, it was just you kind of see a little bit of it like pinging off the shields, but and then yeah, I think it was just I guess that they want you to suspend your disbelief, I guess, for a second, and kind of go back into like the video game, to where it's I don't know. I think what they tried to do, I could see what they tried to do. It didn't land for me either.
Yeah, if they had like some sort of effect where like the bullets are being like vaporized and turning into sparks or something as they're hitting the energy shields, a little bit more, just a little bit more to show that they're actually hitting these guys. They're just not getting through the shield, and
Yep.
then
Well
some
said.
kind of, way to display that when the Spartans come in, they're able to take the shields down with, whatever fancy guns they have or their concentrated firepower, just to kind of show, okay, these guys can be killed. You just have to do it in a certain way.
Yeah, and I definitely like I don't know, they did the fan service of the back smack where the Spartan just came up and was like, "Bop!" And then just yeah, and then the shield, you hear the shield go down, and then yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. A little bit of fan service. And I think if they kind of stick stuff with that, I think it'll definitely work.
What do you
Yeah.
guys think of those first person views? When we're looking through the Master Chief's eyes as they're shooting at the Covenant.
I
It,
think
it,
the oh
go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead.
Nope,
I
nope.
was gonna say I
You've
think
been quiet.
yeah, I think the first person view was done also in a tasteful way. I thought it was going to be a lot more like overdone, sort of like how Corks and I mentioned the Doom movie, you know. But I like that when they chimed them in, there was a reason for it. It's like this is what Master Chief is seeing, and it gave you like a visual that you probably wouldn't have come up with in your own mind. You know, like okay, this is how they scan, you know, this, and this is what this looks like to them when they're in fight or with the shield recharging. That stuff made a lot of sense to me. Or even later on, you know, when he gets the orders pop up the way they do. I thought that
Yeah,
was
that
great.
was good.
As it wasn't like we're just doing it just because the game's first person. It was doing it to sort of say this is what they're seeing as they make it through this tense situation.
Well, it also adds, I think, a little context and kind of makes the helmet reveal a little more meaningful too, because it kind of shows like that's, everything that the Spartan does is relayed through that helmet. So for him to kind of take off that helmet kind of leaves him at a moment of weakness. And I think that's what they want to kind of convey through the first person too. So when he does take off his helmet later on, it has a little bit more of an impact, a little bit more of a bigger meaning.
A little bit more of the rebellion, the freedom of that act as well. He's constantly getting orders, and he's like, "No, I'm taking this off, and I'm doing my own thing. I don't know why, but I'm
Caught in the
doing it
tie.
anyway."
Yeah, that's a really
Yeah,
good point.
What
I
did
and
you
I I,
think?
I
Oh,
agree. I
sorry.
like the first person. It was just, I was really worried it could have been real cheesy, but I agree with you guys. I feel like it turned out a lot better than I was expecting it to for that first person perspective.
Yeah, it worked for me. The shield sounds, and when they brought that in, it was almost surreal. Like I'm so used to hearing those when I'm playing a game, and
Right,
now they're showing
right.
up in like an action series, and I'm just like, oh, it's just like what's happening. Like it just felt kind of like it was making my body like wiggle and do weird things. I don't know. So
What do you
I
guys think of the human covenant reveal at the end there?
yes, this probably looks like it's going to be our main antagonist, at least for the first season, right? I actually was very confused by that, and I don't know my opinion yet. It feels like they're trying to set something up, and she's kind of what she was reading human literature, correct? And the excuse was that she was
Yeah.
using it to study the enemy, but it seemed more like she was using it to find out more about herself. So I think that's going to be a big plot line as we progress through the season.
Yeah, they called her like the blessed one, so I'm guessing there's some sort of um thing that the Covenant believes in that character, and maybe the character doesn't believe in themselves yet, which is why they're trying to reach back to their, you know, I guess their race, their human race, and all that. So I'm curious to see. I mean, I was hoping, well, maybe there is more. Like, you know, we only got one episode, but I was hoping for like, you know, a bigger baddie that's, you know, straight up Covenant, or even the Flood. I was hoping that the Flood was going to be in that room when it's like I told you to stop, you know, working on that, you know. But we'll see.
Well, I think they have a lot of baddies going on. So, I mean, I don't think there's going to be a collective. I think it's pretty much. I think what they're trying to set it up is Master Chief versus everybody kind of thing. The UNMC, MC, the Covenant, things like that. Because like that's just one thing I think. Schunkelberg kind of touched on too about how the UNMC is kind of an enemy. They portray them. I was kind of shocked at that too, where they were talking about like how these guys are the bad guys, and I'm like, what are they talking about? And that was a little kind of like jarring at first too, where I was kind of confused, and then once they kind of explained it, I could see it. But yeah, I don't know. I think everybody's kind of going to be kind of an enemy, and it's going to be just Master Chief kind of taking on the world.
And I can understand them being kind of the enemy to the people. They follow orders, they do what they have to do, they execute their whatever was the Order 72 or whatever. But I was also really shocked of how quickly, yeah, as you're saying, the chief is on their bad side because in the games he's always following the orders, but right away he's the rebel, the rebel without a cause who has no one on his side, like immediately. So that was a little jarring for me as well.
Well, I think what's making them the bad guys is like at the bottom line is fear. Like even when they were trying to convince Khan or Quan, I can't remember the name, but basically the new character, the rebel, to speak on behalf of the camp of like what the Spartans did. It It's mostly a fear of what the enemy's going to do. Like we're trying to keep a cap on this war, or at least try and win it. So they're afraid of that. And then Master Chief, who they've said quite a few times in the show is like their best killing machine, is now um uncontrollable. Like he's doing things that are out of turn. It's like that's scary. So it's like we need to get a cap on that because we got a war ready, and Master Chief is doing stuff that we have no control. What is going on? So like they're just trying to keep everything as smooth as possible because they're definitely afraid. And now they're afraid of two things: Master Chief and the Coven.
It didn't seem as desperate, like because in the games and the books, like it's clear humanity's losing, the Covenant's easily winning. But in this, it really people didn't seem to be like panicking or anything. Like it seemed like they're like, a normal war. We've got this under control almost. And I don't know if that's just because we're early in the series or not, but
Yeah, so I I can't talk more about it. I don't want to ruin episode 2
See,
for
Kevin's
anybody. So,
Kevin's cheated ahead because he went to that premiere, so he has second episode knowledge that we don't.
yeah, so I'll just
right.
kind of just stay with it. I guess I could say is go ahead and stay with it. It definitely there's a little bit more narrative coming up. That's I guess that's not spoilish at all. So yeah, there's more narrative and character development coming up that they kind of focus on. I think a little bit more. So stick with it. If you're kind of confused on what's happening or what's going on, some of it is kind of explained. That's all I'll say without going too far in.
And with that, I think we have about hit our half a minute timer, but we did bring Dead Shane up here, and I just wanted to, we'll make a quick extra minute here if you had a take on the Halo series.
Yeah. So, first episode, I thought it was really nice. I've seen a lot of mixed reviews, like on the subreddit and stuff. But one of the main things for my thing is, for my point of view and my kind of love for the series is that yes, we've had like Forward Unto Dawn and Nightfall and all that stuff. Um, One of the main things I think that we need to keep as a fan base is like this is probably the for me at least this was the best or biggest thing I've seen in the last 20 years when it comes to Halo. So I think as long as we keep the love, right, it's only going to get better from here if anything is negative. You know what I'm saying? So I think going forward, I think the show has from here only places to go up. You know?
I think that's a great spot to finish on, and you did that spoiler free. So, in case anybody did skip ahead and catch that, I don't think they really had anything ruined for them. It's just, I think we all kind of landed in the same spot here. It has our attention enough that next Thursday, when they drop the next episode, we'll probably be checking it out and rolling on with it. So, I would like to ask you. You guys are Shane and Shuckleberger. Why don't you stick with us if you're comfortable with that? We're going to start rolling through some of the week's news, and if you want to drop in some comments, feel free to as we go.
Yeah, of course.
Awesome. So we'll close down the Halo chat until next week. Like Kevin mentioned, if this is something that you would like to see as a weekly show, drop a comment down and underneath the post here, and we'll look into that because we do think a lot of people are interested in the show, and having a weekly conversation about what's happening could be a lot of fun. So something to keep an eye on, and something that we're gonna keep discussing regardless. But we're just gonna try to find the format here. So and kind of on the tail end of that, there's the video game shows are kind of becoming a fad. Is that fair to say with The Witcher and Halo? There was another one announced this week. A Plague Tale is going to become a TV series. We know that Mass Effect is in production at Amazon. How do you guys feel about the trend with this? All these games becoming series now.
So someone had mentioned it earlier, saying that um, like with going back to Halo show for a split second, it's you have that personal experience, right? Like you are the hero, you are the protagonist. With these shows, is you're watching the protagonist, right? And so now it's I think video game shows are are a good thing because they definitely bring in representation of that form of media. However, a lot of people need to remember that this is you are now a person on the sidelines of the game or of the events, not the player making the moves, you know. So if they do fan service, awesome. Like fan service is always fun, but the main thing is, don't get so disheartened by the fact that they don't do it a certain way that you would rather do it, if you in the game were to jump on this ledge in the show, they go down this other path, right? Like it's at the end of the day, you love that you're getting the content, right? There, you can always use more. The whole Batman thing. It was a 3 hour long movie. I said, heck yeah, it's 3 hours of Batman. Obi-Wan Kenobi, 6 hour Obi-Wan movie. So like I think it's more of what we love.
So I think, yeah, you kind of touched a little bit on it, where yeah, it's see, and that's the thing, is a lot of people, I don't think, understand that when you switch to a different form of media, you have to change how you do some things. So
Yeah,
like we were
yeah,
saying, the helmet reveal for Halo, you can't get that in the game, because the game whole point of the game is you are Master Chief. When you switch this over now to a TV show or movie adaptation, you're no longer Master Chief. You're watching somebody else play Master Chief. So, yeah, when you start transferring over stuff like that, you have to change the format. You have to change how things are presented and how things are done. And not everything can be done canonly. And I know it sucks, but I think there are some shows that just totally miss the point, and they don't really respect what the lore and what it is. So like things like Cowboy Bebop was good, but I don't think they fully respected it. I mean, pretty much almost any Netflix adaptation of any anime is like, this is hit, let's make a show, and then it's horrible. But I don't know if that's just because they're trying to
yeah,
switch over anime to
yeah,
TV. There's a
yeah,
whole there's a lot of things here, cogs moving, that's at work, that change that.
I mean, there's
yeah,
there's two elements here. Is that one, you're excited that more people are getting into the thing that you love and they're learning about the world and the lore. I think of Arcane, one of the best, game to TV shows ever made, in my opinion. That was incredible. But then you've got things like, a little bit different take, Avatar, the last Airbender movie. I love the TV series, but if someone's like, "Oh, the Avatar, you mean the movie?" I'd be like, "No, that's awful. That's not at all what it's about." So at the same time, you want people to be invested in the worlds that you love, but you also want them to get, I don't know, the right impression is kind of the way I'm going. Like, you want them to know the good stuff.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Like games sort of, I mean, as more narratives and things hit, they kind of became sort of like movies or shows. So I feel like the adaptation is a little easier for them to pay the respect. Like you were mentioning Avatar, right? I mean, that was a show, and then they tried to make a movie, and there's also video games of it. And the video games were always like middle of the road, which it just shows that sometimes it's hard to like adapt certain things. But when you have a show or a game that's already like Witcher, for example, like you could totally see that being a show. And it worked. Halo, you could see that being a show. It seems to be working. It's interesting to see like what kind of IPs, I guess, are able to sort of morph into these other things. But at the same point, I'm also glad that we're not overdoing it, because if you remember, like Street Fighter, that was a movie, and then they made a video game off the movie. It's like, wait, why don't you just play Street Fighter? It already exists. you know?
yeah,
And
Yeah.
speaking of the properties, I forgot a big one. The Last of Us is coming to HBO, so
yep,
very excited to see what they can do with that, especially with that HBO money and production values. That should be really interesting. So,
yeah. And
go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Well, what I want to bring up Last of Us is because a lot of these, I'll say, just more so Naughty Dog titles, Uncharted, Last of Us, like there's the argument that like those are like interactive movies. It's like if you have games can that for whatever reason feel like a movie, then there may be an argument there that says, do we even need a TV show if we have something like Uncharted or Last of Us,
Yeah,
where
that
you felt tied to the character, like Red Dead 2, you felt tied, so personally tied to those characters, you know?
yeah, that's a good point. Those games, especially the Sony first party, have had that. Some people say it's a criticism. I don't. I enjoy those games immensely, but everybody has their favorite styles. So this is something that we're gonna be a part of, and as gamers, it's kind of cool. At least it's a more kind of acceptance and more the visualization, I guess, more visibility for the games that we love out there, and it might draw some people into the universe that aren't even gamers, which I think is probably the coolest aspect of these shows. So, additionally, this week we got some news from CD Projekt Red. Anytime they drop a pin, it's one of those studios everybody's going to pick up on the news, and they said that a new Witcher game is officially in development. The internet went crazy. It's The Witcher 4. It's The Witcher 4, and nope, we don't have that confirmation. it's a Witcher game in development, which leaves the window open to a lot of possibilities. So, are you guys? What are you feeling about this after Cyberpunk? Do we still have faith that that they can put out some content that we want to see? This is going to be a touchy issue, but go ahead, anybody.
Yeah, real quick. I was like, watch it be just like another Gwent game. It's like Gwent 2, using the Unreal 5 engine or something ridiculous.
I did forget
like
that they said they did mention the Unreal 5 engine, but yes.
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah, just watch it be Gwent utilizing the Unreal 5. Anyway, I just wanted to make that bad joke.
I
Oh, sorry.
I
Go ahead.
got when I heard it, I had heard or I have felt immediately Mass Effect Andromeda to the Mass Effect trilogy, right? It felt, if anything, because they had said like
Ooh, shots fired.
right. Well, but there is some truth to that. I actually enjoyed Andromeda, right? Obviously, it needed some work. We had a big up teaser at the very end of it. Spoilers if you didn't any play it. But like there was a lot of stuff. There was something left to be deserved and to be wanted, desired. That's what I'm thinking of. But I think it'll. I don't know. Hopefully, if they're paying attention to other IPs, specifically in my purview, BioWare and Mass Effect, hopefully CD Projekt Red won't put out another Mass Effect Andromeda.
Yeah, and I don't even think like Cyberpunk was necessarily like their Andromeda. It was just unfortunate that you know I think they overpromised and the hype was there, and then they just got pushed because so much money was riding on it. Because they have been working on trying to patch it up and make it what they envisioned. So if anything, I think we might have passed that point. Like this would be like their redemption arc, and hopefully they can redeem themselves. And I have good faith about it because they have too many eyes on Witcher. You know what I mean? Like they got the show. They have a lot of eyes since Witcher 3. It's it would be really just not a good look if they mess it up. If they came out with an Unreal Engine 5 Gwent game, I think that would really hurt. Unless they really aren't ready to do The Witcher and they kind of do that as a holdover just to keep people off their back. But I don't know. They need to win a lot of good favor, I think, right now. So
If this is The Witcher 4, can they even, there's, speaking of expectation, like, for Cyberpunk, for Witcher 4, is it even possible for them to live up to the enormous amount of hype and expectation that would be put on this game? Like, even if it is a good game, excellent, if it's not 10 out of 10, I feel like you're just going to have people screaming from the rooftops.
Yeah, that's a
yeah,
thing. I think people kind of ruin stuff for themselves sometimes. Is a point I like to make, and but we have seen people deliver on expectations like this, so it's kind of, they have to hit. It's the only way to put it, is that they do have to deliver a 10-10 game. So it's going to be real, and even then, people are going to still find their reasons to be detractors, as always happens. Even like Elden Ring, anytime we see a post about that, people are just like, oh, overrated, it's too hard. It's just how the internet is. But it has to, it can't be Cyberpunk. That's what I'm trying to say, I guess. It has to, when it launches, it has to be a game that people want to play and keep playing.
Yeah, I think I was going to say, I think if CD Projekt Red learned anything from Cyberpunk, it's setting expectations. And especially with something for Witcher, that's something you have to be careful with. That's definitely, especially now that you have a Netflix adaptation, so you have more of a casual fan base that's interested in it, that's starting to play the games. It's huge now. So I think if anything, I mean, there's always going to be people that are going to hype up their games, 10-10, and you're never going to live up to that. But for the most part, I think CD Projekt Red's going to totally tackle Witcher differently than how they tackled Cyberpunk. So they're probably just announcing stuff now, but they won't probably do big reveals until a lot more closer till release. I think that's one big thing. You were going to say something, Grim?
oh yeah, I was just gonna say that like with things like Elden Ring, we're starting to see games I guess live up to the hype. And that was the big surprise. Everyone was like, but yeah, you have the detractors who are like it's overrated. But I also think, I guess a blessing for Witcher, is that since they're so early in this announcement to where it's not even really confirmed, I guess like they're gonna do their announcement later. Um, is that maybe they can buy themselves time so that they don't spread themselves as thin with Cyberpunk. Like Witcher, that was just on, like Xbox, PlayStation, PC, done, and came to Switch later. But Cyberpunk had the, the older consoles holding it back a bit. It wasn't really that optimized for the best PCs. So it was like just spread and oh now you got next gen coming right in. It was like sandwiched. Maybe if they keep holding off with Witcher, they'll have enough time with the dev kits at a base level. It's a new engine. I mean, you have to keep that in mind too, is that's the new engine, so that's going to bring up new headaches. So hopefully, when there's less of a playing field, when it's just PS5s, Xboxes, PCs, and Switches, it would be a lot easier for devs to just be like, all right, we can turn this up to 10, have it run pretty well, and hopefully they can figure out Unreal 5 before it gets too out of hand.
Right. Hopefully it's not a disaster. So I think I'm gonna, even though some people felt burnt by Cyberpunk, I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt, and I will be watching this game closely, whatever this announcement ends up being. Also this week, Psychonauts 2 won the Best Narrative Award at the Games Developers Conference, which happened, I believe that was last week. There's some other news that came out of there too, but just wanted to throw, again, some praise to Psychonauts 2, which kind of maybe gets a little forgotten about, but it was such a fantastic game. Do you guys have any good memories of that game? Did you enjoy it? Is it something that you feel is deserving as the best narrative of last year?
I just want to say about damn time. That game is amazing, and the narrative experience, it's definitely top notch how they tackled everything about it. I mean, Double Fine's one of my favorite studios, but so my opinion may be slightly biased, but it's about damn time. They deserve, I think, way more narrative awards for what they did with Psychonauts 2.
Go ahead, Grim.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say I still haven't played it, but I definitely need to. Like
this is what I mean. This is what I mean. And, like I got lost in the shuffle, but but I mean I think you need to look at the backlog and prioritize and maybe make some room for this game.
Shuckle, you're our new host.
Yeah.
All right.
No, I'm just, like I mean I loved all his other games, and I love that type of storytelling. So it's so weird that it keeps getting knocked out of the shuffle. Like you said, I need to put it on the top. Like for instance, Tunic would have been next on the block. So that knocked out Psychonauts.
Don't
again,
make me
and
choose
it's like,
between those two games.
it's that rough, and it's like I haven't played Psychonauts 1 in like a long time, so I feel a little further removed from things where I'm like, all right, well, let me go for a new experience. I know I'm gonna like Psychonauts. Like it's a game that I know I'm gonna like, so it makes it harder to jump in where like, oh, this is an experience I'm not too sure about. What's this like? And then I might find something I like, and then I find something I'm like, man, I should have played Psychonauts too. Like,
Yeah, I was gonna say thanks Game Pass. Like when there's so many games coming out that it's like, ah, dang it. Now I got Tunic. Now I got Psychonauts 2. I got Plague's Tale. It's just all these different games that are just available at your fingertips. It's rough, trying to choose.
It is, yeah. I mean, out of all the like first world problems, right? But it's come on, it's getting insane. Slow down. Just kidding. Keep them coming. So moving on from that, I wanted to talk about maybe some freebies that you might not be aware of. You still have time to play Far Cry 6 for free this weekend if you ever wanted to demo that and maybe see if it was a game that you wanted to pick up. A great game. I haven't had a chance to play it. This is one that's lost in my backlog. You want to give me like a quick 30-second review?
Yeah, I mean, it was just I haven't played Far Cry since Far Cry 3, so I was coming into it fresh. I know a couple people said, "Oh, it's just like Far Cry 5, Far Cry 4," and I'm like, well, I haven't played those, so who cares? But it was just a lot of fun. Far Cry focuses on the fun, focuses on letting you play the way you want. A little bombastic. I liked the story. I liked the setting. So yeah, I just thought it was an overall just a really good time.
Fair. That's terrific. Additionally, that we also found out this week that for new subscribers, you can get Marvel Unlimited, which is, I believe, access to all of their comic books in digital form. This is an app that's on your Xbox, so you can check it out even on your big, beautiful display. And I bet you that's actually pretty poppin'. It's a 3-month subscription, so for Game Pass Ultimate subscribers only. But these perks that they've been handing out have been pretty solid. If you weren't aware, you can also get a subscription to Paramount Plus for 1 month for free. So maybe if you haven't checked out that Halo show and you're kind of interested now, well, that's a way that you can at least see the first month's worth of episodes for no cost to yourself. So that's always good to see. Getting a little more value for your price there. And then, kind of on the opposite end of like maybe awesome consumer moves, Rockstar announced the subscription service for Grand Theft Auto, and I saw probably the best take on this is it feels like Rockstar has become the corporation that they used to mock in all of their games. Like, can they milk this cow anymore?
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. They've become the company that they've mocked so much. Rockstar, come here. Let's sit down. Let's have a talk. I mean, it's kind of like, what are you doing? You used to be one of these like beloved like developers, and now it's just you're making $40 bare minimum next gen upgrades. You're porting out horrible remasters that are buggy and again bare minimum. And then now you're introducing like pay to win subscription models into your online. It's like, come on, your consumer base isn't a cow. You don't got to try and get milk from every teat, like stop trying to milk your consumer base. Like, it's rude. It's rude. It's belittling, and it just shows like such just a lack of respect for your fans.
Yeah, and it's
I'm just
really
shocked.
strange because like I was shocked too because it's like the payouts aren't even like that good, like oh you get 500,000 a month and like some skins or whatever, and people are commenting like I can make that in like an hour, it's like it's such a strange way of doing it too. Like maybe if they did like 2 million a month or something, I don't know, but even so, like it's weird that we're in a time where the paid games have a worse subscription or battle pass than the free games like a Fortnite or Pokemon Unite. If you were to drop like $10 on their battle pass, you actually get like something cool. Whereas I paid 60 for Grand Theft Auto, now I'm gonna pay $6 a month, and I'm gonna get like a $5 shark card and a skin that I'm never gonna use.
It just shows just how dominant Grand Theft Auto is. The fact that there's still enough people playing the same game after, we just talked about all these other awesome games that are coming out on Game Pass and you can buy, but there's still enough people, going on Grand Theft Auto Online that, this is worth the money for them. It's just incredible how long of a tail this game has.
It reminds me of that political drawing where it's like the farmer with like the 6 buckets in his arms and the very like malnourished cow, like it's been 9 years going on. And it's still somehow going strong.
They did at least confirm that
cow.
Grand Theft Auto 6 is coming, but it's just, it does feel like this game's been out forever. Speaking of maybe feeling a little old, this week was also the 16th anniversary for Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. I remember when that game first came out and being blown away by the first few moments of it, and Horse Armor. Who can forget Horse Armor? That's the the one that started it all, right?
The beginning of the end.
Yes, a lot of people would say the beginning of the end. And the outrage to the Horse Armor was so intense back then, and I guess it was justified in some people's eyes because that has definitely been the way that these games are still extracting revenue from the people who are playing them, and it kind of is a nice little cross to what Grand Theft Auto was doing there as well. That's where we've evolved, and that's the state of the industry. So, on a little bit maybe better news, we got some more Hogwarts Legacy details, and we have learned that it won't have multiplayer at all. So I found this to be encouraging because last week when Mikey was on the show, we were discussing the potential for microtransactions, even though they said there weren't going to be any microtransactions. But if all this news that we're getting is to be believed, this is setting up to be a great single-player experience. I do believe it's going to have a $70 price point on the Xbox, but I think maybe it was Kevin who suggested, well, you know what, that's a fair price if you're not going to milk me like these other games are doing. There's no Horse Armor.
Yeah, that's definitely that's 100% my stance on it. I'm fine with $70 games. Coming from the industry, I know the amount of time, the amount of dedication, what goes into these games. $70 is actually a fair price nowadays coming into it. So, but only if you don't have any microtransactions. If you're going to sit there and, totally paywall your game and limit experience and kind of force it into like a mobile gaming kind of strategy, then no, you shouldn't be charging full price for these games. They should be $30, $40, maybe $50, but no way a game with $70 price tag, Gran Turismo 7 should have microtransactions
Oh
or at
man,
least something
speaking
that's
of shots fired,
exploitative.
ouch.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. It's like, see, that's I think where we're having the problem is that there's still enough games out on the market that charge 60, like Elden Ring or even the Kirby game. People are loving that. Those are 60, and people are having a great time. They can play offline. That's important. Do their thing. They bought it, they do whatever, and they're done. But then you have Gran Turismo, like, hey, here's a $70 game, and that $10 doesn't justify it at all. It's like, well, what am I getting for that $10? Like, maybe better graphics, I guess. Like, but not that much better. We're not on PlayStation 6 yet,
This game looks great. I mean, I've loved the demo trailer they did and everything. It looks incredible. The only thing that makes me sad, I'm happy it's single player, but there's a small part of me wishes there was some sort of co-op element, because I know this is a game, my wife, who's not normally into games, would really enjoy as well. So if there was some way we could play it together, I feel like would be really fun. But I totally understand, the single player experience they're going for, and it looks awesome.
I agree with that. I wish there would be a way for me and the boys to roll down the main halls of Hogwarts, as the squad of Slytherin or whatever, like we're the gang, So that is disheartening, or not really disheartening, but a little bit sad. But at the end of the day, that game is shaping up to be something really, really cherished.
Here's the best praise I can get is I'm not a Harry Potter fanatic. I do intend to catch up on the Harry Potter universe at some point in my life, but I haven't done it yet. But I am still very interested in this game. It does the visuals look great. The gameplay looks really interesting. Everything that they're putting out, such as the no microtransactions, it's all positive. So I am excited to try it out. And I'm saying that as a non Harry Potter fan. So they are doing something right over there.
Yeah,
So
during the trailer, every time they just revealed another piece, it's like, yes, like, oh, and we get the room of requirement. Oh, and I can customize this place to look like my little magical house. I get animals. Like every time a new piece was revealed, me and my wife were like, yes, that's awesome. That's what we want. It's everything a fan of Harry Potter could want from a game. And if they can pull it off, I think it'll be excellent. But all the pieces that I would want are there.
totally, yep. That's the stuff I've been hearing, and that's coming from the fans too. So it's hard to please both audiences, and it just seems to be good things happening. So let's hope they don't disappoint. Um, kind of speaking of disappointment, let's talk maybe a little bit about Battlefield 2042. Really rough go of it this launch, right? For this cycle for the Battlefield team, it's been hard to watch. I haven't even played the game, but I am a Battlefield fan. Most of us have played maybe one of those games at least some point in our gaming career, and it was just really disappointing to see it kind of fall by the wayside, and just what happened. It just wasn't the best looking optics for a AAA franchise. What they announced is that they are already working on pre-production for the next Battlefield, and that they have learned valuable lessons. Do we have faith that they can turn the Battlefield franchise around and make it something that people will praise once again?
Why can't they just make Battlefield Bad Company 3? That's all I want them to do.
that
Like,
that would be a crowd pleasing move.
yeah, that's it. Like, come on, guys, it's so simple. That was the best games.
Like they know it would make money. Think of Battlefront 3, right? Battlefront 2 and Battlefield 5 died, so Battlefield 2042 could then also die. People know that that would sell in a heartbeat. Titanfall 3 would sell in a heartbeat. Different studio, but still, it would sell in a heartbeat. I think they just have their own motives they wanna push for, and that's fine. But it you have to. If you're a customer service, right? You have to do whatever you can to please the customers, and they didn't deliver with this last game.
Yeah. You also got to think though, Vince Zampella is heading the DICE Studios now. So, the people that, love the Respawn games, people that love Titanfall and Apex and all that, that's coming from um Vince Zampella, who's also previous, Modern Warfare coming from Activision. He's the one everybody loves, the Modern Warfare COD games. That's him. So I have a lot of faith. I mean, granted, okay, so I also used to work at EA, so I'm a little biased. I pretty much I probably some people are downvoting the crap out of me if they could on that.
Boo,
But
we're kicking you off the podcast.
He's a
Just
troll.
kidding.
yeah, I'm gonna kick myself off the podcast. But yeah, it's just I don't know. He's heading it up, so I have a lot of faith now in what they're doing. It's definitely a great game, or hopefully it'll be a great game. But yeah, I don't know, just something to consider.
Yeah, I think like, what it really just comes down to if you listen to your audience, because it seems like when companies do that, they do succeed. Like people are vocal, we were talking about the review bombs and everything else. So there's definitely enough constructive criticism out there if you want it. And that obviously some filler as well, but like for the most part, it's like, all right, this isn't working. We need to turn it around. And I would say even before any new management or whatever, like just like going back to previous years, look at Battlefront 2. That came out with like tons of loot boxes, tons of microtransactions, complete nickel and dime situation, and they did turn that around. Unfortunately, not many people came back once they did, but if they were willing to put in the effort there, I definitely can see them put in the effort for Battlefield, because I don't think they can afford to lose one of their stronger sellers. I mean, it just wouldn't make sense to watch it die on the side.
Well, I just think, but fundamentally at its base level, Battlefront 2 was a good game. The mechanics were there. It felt good. It felt fun. Whereas for me, I did the 10-hour free trial of Battlefield 2042, and it didn't feel good. The maps were too big. Like it just didn't feel right. So I understand what you're saying. Like I think they can work on it and try to turn it around. I'm afraid that the bones of this game just aren't there. And there's no matter how much coats of paint they put on it, it won't be what it needs to be.
This might be why they've kind of got the announcement that they're turning the corner, and it's kind of sucks, especially if you bought a special edition or you put a bunch of money into 2042. But maybe it's kind of a necessary move, and we just
Good morning, everyone. I have a huge question for you all. What's your favorite block in Minecraft?
Hello. I'm not sure how they got up here, but that happens with this client sometimes. That's okay. But as I say, it feels like 2042 just, it didn't, it is time to turn the corner and let it go. And unfortunately, it's just, it is what it is. We have to move on, and hopefully they do get it back to the level of production that we're used to and we expect. For me, it sounds like that game was just a total disaster, like from the back end to the gameplay and everything. And it's just, you can't, when you're facing Call of Duty and you're trying to break into that first-person shooter market, it's really, it's a crowded space. So you have to deliver top-notch gameplay, and they missed.
Did they ever come out with a scoreboard? Because I know that was a missing feature. I think they were working on it.
People are still knocking them about it, but did they? Yeah, can we confirm that?
I thought they may have, but
I think they may have. But I mean, it's one of those things where why was it taken out in the first place? 2042 had a lot of things that got taken out, or that wasn't part of the game in the first place, and then they're going to add it on later on. It's kind of like Halo's Infinite, kind of when it first started.
Yeah, I looked it up. They did add the scoreboard finally, but they still haven't added voice chat. So there's that. Man.
Boy, that's a rough road over there, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, it's just like little things like that. Like I mean, I guess it was rushed. Maybe they just wanted to be in the same release window as Call of Duty, but like it's not paying off at all. And it's actually kind of a weird like state to be in, because like if you really think about it, if they just waited and actually made the game, more fun to play, really refined it, Call of Duty didn't make a good splash this year. This would have been just an easy win for them, but they basically floundered just as bad, and it just made other first-person shooters look better.
Well, and we've gotten to the point now where Call of Duty announced that they're taking a year off. Is that correct? So maybe Battlefield, it's going to be tempting for them to want to fill that void, but maybe they need to take a little more time with this next release as well.
It's all about that holiday sale. They always push for that November release date. And, I think they need to go back to the drawing board and be like, hey, is this really the best thing for us? If we push this into, early spring, we were not going to get the holiday sales. And, I'm not there in a business capacity, so I couldn't say the numbers wise. But, for me personally, I just feel like that would be a better look is if if they just take the time they need to do it right instead of trying to push to get those Christmas sales.
For sure. And
Yeah.
rushing a game never, rarely works out well. So we're gonna kind of close here. It's a kind of a mashup of three stories, and it has to do with Xbox and their direction for the future, and kind of how their business model is working. The first bit of news is that they unveiled this week that they have a new publishing division focused on cloud native games. And what this would probably mean is a game developed to run exclusively in the cloud. Not probably, it will for sure. So these are titles that you're going to play from your phone or your computer or anywhere else that you would play xCloud enabled games. I really am curious about this. Are we talking about idle games that you can play, kind of like your classic phone type games like that, or are they actually going to try to produce content that is a little more interactive, I guess, games that we are traditionally used to. Along with that, they have announced that ID at Xbox has generated over $2.5 billion in revenue for indie developers. If you're not familiar with the ID at Xbox program, there's two programs they have for indie developers, and one of them is you can pretty much just make whatever and kick it on the store, as long as it meets Xbox content standards, and you won't have achievements or a lot of the back end stuff that we're used to with our Xbox releases. But what the ID program does is it certifies these games. It puts them in touch with somebody at Microsoft that helps them go over and make sure it's going to be of the quality that gamers are used to, and it gives them achievements and party chat and all the features that we're used to. So if you're an independent developer, you can get the dev kit, which many of our users have done for other reasons that I'm not going to get into, but and you can produce your own game and get it certified and have achievements and make some money off it. And that has obviously been paying off for a lot of developers. $2.5 billion is nothing to shake a stick at. So this all kind of concluded with Phil Spencer and Sarah Bond sat down at the Game Developer Conference, and they had a nice little half an hour sit down, kind of talking about the direction of in the future of Xbox. And a couple of things to take away from that were that they're not going to focus on one business model as the winning formula. Everything that they're doing is kind of in concert. It's more of a soup. It's not a one food meal. So the xCloud, being able to play on PC, Game Pass, the console division, this all works together, and it's all part of their overall strategy moving forward. And speaking of Game Pass, they also announced in that same situation that subscribers that play games on Game Pass, they end up spending 50% more on the expanded content of the games that they're playing. And what this means that if you decided to try out one of the Game Pass titles and were enjoying it, well, you're more likely to buy downloadable content or cosmetics or that type of thing. So it's another positive for developers considering Game Pass as a potential perk from doing so. So this is kind of a grand question and a big setup, but how are you guys feeling about Xbox as a whole and their strategy moving into the future? Like, this all seems like pretty positive news to me.
I mean, it's incredible where we are now versus where we were back in the the Xbox One of the early days, of the always online requirement and focusing on this as an entertainment box and everything. And just props to Phil Spencer coming in and turning everything around and really making it back about the games and what the gamers want. It's hard to say, is it just one person? Is it just him that's changed the ship, and made it what it is today? But I'm sure he's at least made a huge contribution to the way that Xbox has really become, my favorite place to play. And I'm hoping with all of you guys here, it's your favorite place to play as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think like it's pretty incredible to see how much growth this had. I mean, on paper, it sounds like a slam dunk, and it ended up being one. But like a lot of people were like, "Oh, I think that's not sustainable. That's going to cost way too much money." But then you don't think about the things like, "Oh, well, people are more likely to buy DLC if they're playing the game," and things like that. And I feel like we're kind of in this weird point where we see other companies sort of trying to play catch up to what Xbox is doing. Like Nintendo has their expansion pass to try and pad up their subscription. PlayStation is looking into games as a service. They're even Gran Turismo 7 had some of that language mixed into its recent update. It's kind of weird to see, and also the Spartacus rumors, I guess. But like for the most part, it's like what Xbox is doing, which was first sort of like, I don't know about that, ended up taking off, and it kind of just reminds me of when they first introduced Live. A lot of people were like, that seems like a lot. And then it ended up being how we all play. Like, we don't even think about it anymore.
Yeah,
So maybe in another 7 years, we'll be like that with Game Pass. You know?
that's a really good comparison because Live as a service, people are like, well, I'm going to pay for these features. And if you are old enough to remember, I think it was probably the PlayStation 2 generation where that happened. And PlayStation went the other way where they're like, well, nope, we're just going to leave this all up to the developers of the games. If you want servers, well, put up your own servers. And if you want voice chat, well, create your own platform for voice chat. And what happened is a lot of those games sucked. And it's maybe the game was good, but the back end was really terrible. It was hard to find your friends to play online with them. And Xbox Live streamlined that. And all of a sudden paying what it was like $50-$60 a year, right, for Live, that kind of became worth it because $5 a month for a service where you're going to have reliable communications and achievements. That was a big part of Xbox Live too, what we often forget about. That kind of back end stuff actually ended up being a great thing. So Xbox is kind of a forward thinking company. Sometimes it bites them in the butt. The Xbox One is a perfect example where they thought everything, they wanted a media box that was going to do gaming and everything else. Yeah, and they just focused way too much on that. And Windows Phone, they try things and sometimes it doesn't work out and they cut their losses. But I will always appreciate Microsoft trying new things and looking to the future.
Yeah, well, I mean, Xbox's new strategy is incredibly simple: consumer first. And that's something that Xbox has been doing really, really well. I mean, I just recently was talking to somebody on Twitter about it where, they're like, Microsoft sucks. I don't trust them. They're so anti consumer. And I was just like, dude, look at Xbox. It's a prime example of putting the consumer first, and the consumer is going to put Xbox first. You got smart delivery, you have play anywhere, you have the adaptive controller. When they announced Live, they were going to do the 4 free games. That didn't raise price. They did not raise the price of Live at all for those 4 free games. You have xCloud, you have the adaptive controller. I mean, I can keep going and going and going on the consumer first, friendly policies that Xbox has really decided to put back, into the consumers. So it's, yeah, their strategy is working. It's beautiful. They're showing such, and they've always been like that. I've been to numerous fan fests, and they've always put their consumers first. And now that they're really showing it and doubling down on it, I'm glad it's really working for them.
Now, the question is a while back, Phil Spencer had stated that doing things like they're branching into xCloud, right? So quote unquote Netflix for gaming, right? So you can instantly start playing it, start streaming it, quote unquote. I've done it a couple times. I think it works well if you have the infrastructure to support it. Do you think that is a better future as opposed to stepping into a newer domain as that is VR? I know they had Kinect, and Kinect had its issues, but even then, Kinect became a tool for a lot of institutions, and it became tools for like medical facilities, or I've seen them at museums and stuff. So
I love
do you
my
think
Kinect.
do you think with like the whole Oculus metaverse thing coming out, if that's the right move to not go towards VR and go towards streaming?
Yeah, definitely 100%. I think we're now at, especially with metaverse coming in, the biggest thing that I hated about the PlayStation VR, I still have mine, it's fun, it was great, but there's so many wires. And now seeing something, I think that's what kind of Xbox was talking about when they're like, we're not ready for VR yet, is now you get something like the metaverse, where you get the Oculus 2, and there's no wires. You draw a little line on the floor, and then that's, it's all separate. And I think that's what they were kind of trying to work on with HoloLens as well, making that AR. But I think now we're finally at a point to where if Xbox wanted to dabble into VR, and especially with, Gabe Newell, talking about, hey, we're willing to partner up with you, Xbox, with Steam and stuff. It's kind of like, okay, doors are opening here. And I think maybe not this year, but hopefully next year, when technology is even better, when we have the Quest 3 out and stuff like that, I think hopefully we'll start to see maybe some integration. They already use Facebook for their streaming. What's to say that they're not going to work on Oculus integration for the Xbox?
You heard it here first. Steam store on the Xbox.
Go ahead. No, but you're good, Ivan. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I think I remember seeing somewhere. where it was like they were interested in sort of being the like the gaming platform for metaverse. So like if you're in metaverse already doing your thing, you can just hop onto your Xbox Game Pass within that, rather than them doing the hardware side of it. They just want to be the service within it. And like Gorkasan brought up about how Steam is like, hey, let's work together and do this. I think they just want to get the brand across a bunch of different things. So like wherever you play, it works. And that's sort of, I guess, is reinforced with the whole play anywhere, smart delivery, things like that. I mean, it's encouraging you to have just multiple ways of playing and not really being blocked out from your game because you didn't bring your Xbox or you're not near your computer. It's like, oh, I only have my phone. Oh, I could just pick up, Tunic and just continue playing from where I was on the Xbox at home. I think that's what they're aiming for.
Yeah, that's really astute. I think Xbox is not just playing on your Xbox, quote unquote anymore. Xbox is a platform, and when we were talking about their comments at the GDC, I think that's what they were kind of trying to stress is that. Yes, it's still going to be a priority to get these great games and great hardware out there for console gamers, but we're also going to make that accessible and not in the accessibility way for people that need assistance when playing games, but accessible where you can get to it at multiple devices. So rather than developing their own VR tech, I kind of agree with you. I think it's more of a case where they're going to be like, hey, can we pump some games out here? Maybe Game Pass gets a few VR games. Maybe they release them on their store and say, this works, and if they work with Steam or whoever has the hardware, then they can pump them out there like they're trying to do with pretty much everything everywhere else. Like this just seems to be their overall strategy, so that fits it really well. I did want to kind of take a little aside here real quick, and one thing with the Kinect that we forget about is that the Kinect had great voice control, and this was before Alexa and voice assistants really took off, and I will always see this as kind of a misstep by Microsoft by not expanding Cortana more than they did at that point in time. Maybe they're looking back and kicking themselves too, because controlling my television by Cortana and the very basic voice controls that they had at that time is something that I still miss. I still miss being like Xbox, volume up, Xbox, watch ESPN. And it was a convenience. And if they could have tapped into that a little bit more, they could have been Alexa, but just a miss there for them. So, sorry, that was kind of a tangent.
It was in a Rise, Son of Rome, too. You could, was it like fire arrows or catapults or something? You just yelled at your TV, and
yeah,
it was kind of fun.
You could order pizza.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Like,
yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah. I love the voice stuff until like you get to somebody that was like a troll on Modern Warfare and their name was Xbox Off, and you're like, Xbox Off, what are you doing? And then you're like, no, and then it just cuts out, and you can just know that their Xbox went off. That was always a fun thing of Kinect.
And people would leave those mics on all the time too. Like when I first played Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare, like I heard so many family, like domestic situations that I did not need to be privy to. But it's just kind of how tech works. Like people don't know how to use it at first.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much technology, and like I said, I think that's the smart way to go. Why try and develop an Xbox VR headset just for Xbox when you've already made that opening with Facebook and they already have the technology established? I think it's a very smart move. I mean, Phil, if you're listening, come on, bro. Like, it makes so much sense now that I'm like thinking about it. I'm working it in my head that, Oculus integration for Xbox would be it. That would be the VR console, and PlayStation can have their PlayStation VR headset too. But I think honestly, and I know this is probably, someone will see this as fanboyish, but it would destroy PlayStation's VR. The Quest is an amazing system. It's already I have one. It's great. I can take it anywhere. I mean, I can sit at the doctor's office and people wave my arms around, but I'm still playing VR, and it doesn't take a lot to do. So I think especially with their cloud gaming, now see, this is where it just catapults. You could have cloud gaming on the Oculus 3 or Oculus 2. There's so many infinite possibilities.
At some point, it'll become no PlayStation, no Xbox, no Facebook, no Oculus. It's just, hey, I got the new Playbox. It's all one thing.